Affirmation station, affirmation station. What's today's affirmation? Whoa. Hey, besties, and welcome back to the topic section. I will eventually get back to where you are in the present, though. I'm graced on the stage with Teresa Lear Levine. Is an amazing woman that I'm excited to interview about. Drum roll. I know you're like, Charente, really? We're not drum rolling. We're driving right now. We're going to be talking about quieting the negative aspects of high functioning anxiety or ADHD. And I'm really excited to bring her to talk about this because me and you have been having these conversations, bestie. I know mental health. I know, I get it. I just wanted to bring someone else in to know that, everything that I say is not crazy. And I do fact check my stuff. So I had to bring in an expert. And Teresa, say hello to the audience.
Oh, hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here today, Charente. I'm so excited.
I will say this is that when I called you, your energy was like there. And I was like, I have met another uplifter. It feels so nice. So my question to you is, how did you get here?
It's been a long and winding road, but my calling to the work that I do now, at least, which is mostly based in nervous system regulation and subconscious mind work, came about 7 or 8 years ago at this point. And I was in the midst of raising my 3, soon to be 4 kids at that time. I have 4 boys. And I was really having a lot of lack mindset and a lot of kind of having a hard time really feeling all the blessings that were in my life, despite the fact that they were there. Things were feeling hard and struggly and felt like I was just striving and reaching for things all the time instead of like this flow happening and this, kind of aligning with that abundance that's our birthright and all of that calm, clarity, and confidence that should just be naturally ours. It felt really separate. And it was the beginning of me kind of going down this rabbit hole and kind of reassessing my entire past, going through healing trauma, learning how to regulate my nervous system. When you're bringing up kids and you want them to be emotionally free and you want them to understand their feelings and everything else, and yet nobody ever taught you how to do that. It's kind of like you're growing up with them and figuring it all out together. And what I most wanted at that time was just to really receive and feel all the blessings that my life already had, and then create more, and with the gratitude already for where I was. And being able to regulate my nervous system was huge in that. I have ADHD, have since I was a kid, wasn't diagnosed until my early 40s, but it's been kind of this thread along the way. And it's been something that has made it difficult for me to be really present. So as I learned to regulate my nervous system with things like emotional freedom techniques, I started to feel presence like I have never felt before. And truly, presence is the abundance that I think all of us are seeking and may not even realize. And from that place, I was able to expand in so many ways. And then, getting into the subconscious mind, rewiring, the subconscious is huge in being able to kind of next level your life. So I guess in a roundabout way, that's how I got here.
I love it. And we always have a genesis point to where we get to our revelations. That's what I like to call this process. And
sure,
I absolutely love that you have figured out for yourself what works for you and getting back into the present, which really is the biggest gift ever. I know it sounds so cliche, but it really is the biggest gift to be able to have these active conversations where you can actually feel the energy in the conversation, not just hear what they're saying, but feel what they're saying. And
absolutely.
So I know that a lot of people listening to this, they are not here. They're not where we are. They're probably also thinking about 10 different things while they're listening to this episode as we speak. Okay. So my question to you, me and my mom like to call it the stinking thinking, the automatic negative thought, the ants. Okay. Yep. Can they, while they're driving or while they're maneuvering through life and they're having a negative spiral, what is something that they can do to pause, to stop, to get that peace again?
So I think the simplest thing and the most overlooked thing that most of us could be doing is literally just taking a breath. I think it's so funny how I used to get to like 4 or 5 o'clock in my day before I realized that I hadn't actually taken a good, deep, cleansing, clearing breath at any point in my day up until then. And, breathing is life. And so often we forget that just really taking a nice deep inhale through your nose, just down into your belly, and just feeling the way that the air fills your lungs and the cavities in your body, and then releasing that, it does bring presence upon you. And it's the simplest thing I can think of for any given situation. Yeah. Yep. Totally free, totally easy. If you take a really good, nice, long, deep breath, maybe you're spending 20 seconds. That's it. Yeah. Sure. It's like my life before all of this. It's an easy picture for me to paint. So, the ADHD can show up a lot of times like impulsiveness, and that can be impulsive with the things that you're, doing, the way that you're acting, your thoughts, even the way that they kind of rapid fire. It can be disorganization, problems with prioritizing. It's only been in the last like 120 years or so that priorities were plural. We used to have a priority, and now we have all of these things that we wish to prioritize. And with a more neurodivergent or ADHD brain, it can be really hard to figure out prioritization. And that will, when I'm looking through the lens of using things like emotional freedom techniques or tapping, which I'm guessing your audience is somewhat familiar with because you talk about it a good bit. EFT is great at helping me to be more rational and to be more focused. And then when I'm thinking about the impulsiveness, I'm thinking that, nervous system regulation really helps me to calm myself and to slow myself down. Another thing that comes up a lot with ADHD is poor time management, planning skills, things like that. And when I bring in nervous system regulation or subconscious mind work, that's where I can like give myself a really easy pep talk that works on my entire nervous system and allows me to just show up differently in the moment instead of feeling disorganized or ill prepared. There can be excessive restlessness. There can be hyperactivity. People often think that, and I know up until recently we had, ADHD and ADD, and now it's all just under the umbrella of ADHD. And a lot of people will say to me, yeah, I have that, but I don't relate with the hyperactivity part of it. And they only are envisioning like kind of bouncing off the walls or being physically hyperactive. But it can really just be like hyperactivity in your mind. And I think most people do relate to that have ADHD. So it doesn't have to be physical hyperactivity. And then when it comes to, high functioning anxiety, we have different symptoms and different ways that we all use it depending on our lives and what's kind of gotten us to that point. But a lot of it's a tendency to be like an overachiever and to have these just really difficult high standards for ourselves. And it can actually appear like it's helping us. A lot of people who have high functioning anxiety, they function well. They're getting things done. To the outside world, it looks like all is well and that they're kind of killing it most of the time. But inside, there's a lot of being hard on themselves, a lot of self-judgment. Their inner peace is very disturbed. They usually feel really exhausted. And I'm trying to think what else. It's being this kind of like being really tied to your to-do list or having, goals that are really related with you doing certain things, which prevents us from just being. And I'm a huge believer that we can be more and do less and accomplish more than we ever imagined, which is the opposite side of high functioning anxiety.
I just want to thank you because I am self-diagnosed. I have both. Okay. And I can say that it's nice being able to have a quiet mind. I never thought that was a possible thing. I thought the nothing box that men can go into was just fictional for women. Like, we could never go there. And I can say that breathing, EFT, venting gratitude, and affirmations has helped me come back into myself and to be in a place and space where I can have some pretty impactful conversations, just being myself. And the coolest part is not having to overthink, saying, I have to give them my name, I have to do this. No, we're going to naturally allow the conversation to evolve and to co-create how we're looking to really co-create without all the additional pretenses. And I can also say is that how I learned it from the training with PQ, it goes into judgment, the hypervigilant, the stickler, the overachiever, and these are just the people pleaser, and the different ways that you can self-sabotage without you even realizing that
and self-abandon.
Yes. And then being a Pikachu. That's what my mom calls it when we're picking at ourselves. And I was like, Mom, I cannot never forget that.
I have never heard that before, but having boys that love Pokemon, that'll stick.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, I absolutely love this. And that's why I was like, now every time I'm picking up myself, I'm like, Pikachu. And I'm like, no, I don't choose you. I don't. So that's what I can say I'm learning and evolving and growing. But I also know that people can find themselves in those descriptions and not realize how to turn themselves down before they get to that fun thing that we like to call burnout, or they're sitting in a place of imposter syndrome, even though their evidence shows otherwise altogether. And my question for you is, as they're ramping up and they're getting to this place where they recognize that they are burnt out, and they are high functioning, okay? How does one navigate making the true decision to say, I'm going to rest. I'm going to actually take this time. I'm going to stop making excuses as to why I can't rest. How does one navigate that inner conversation with themselves?
Well, it comes down to love, acceptance, and forgiveness, which are key parts of emotional freedom techniques. And it comes down to, you have to literally become a different person. And that's why it can be so hard. It's really difficult for someone who does not understand or has ever felt even true rest to think about taking time off, slowing down, any of those things. I released a book last year, and one of the chapters in it was titled Slow is the New Fast, and literally about how we can slow down and become attuned and achieve more than we ever achieved when we were trying to go, a mile a minute. But the first thing that's necessary is some kind of a commitment, because rest is a new standard. It's a new identity for you, and it's going to push you outside of your comfort zone. And it would seem like rest should be super comfortable, but for people who are perfectionistic and high achieving, rest is very uncomfortable. And then what you're going to need is some courage. And, you have to be able to adapt toward the commitment that you made. And that's usually going to have you bumping up against some loss and some failure and some other things that you're going to be able to use as feedback and as part of your learning process, but that, again, it's not going to feel comfortable at the time. If courage and bravery was comfortable, then everybody would be doing courageous and brave things all the time, and none of us would be separate from the next level life that we want. But so many people have more things that they want to achieve, and it's those things that are missing in between. And so once we've committed, then we're getting brave, and we're becoming masters, really, of normalizing these new standards in our life. And when I'm working with people, this is where I'm bringing in subconscious mind work, and I'm bringing in nervous system regulation and meeting them where they are throughout this process of learning to rest and all the feelings that come up, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to go to rest and it's going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to be reminded of something, maybe not even consciously, that is your reason why you don't rest. And that's what's going to need to be worked on and resolved so that you can feel more comfortable with that and more normal with this thing that honestly feels like a threat to your brain. Your brain is so used to living one way, and it thinks it's keeping you safe by keeping you in that high functioning anxiety and that perfectionistic life. And logically that you want this change and you need this change, but you can't make that kind of change from a conscious place. It has to be made from the subconscious mind.
And I thank you so much for explaining that so beautifully. And I love the distractions that try to come in with my Alexa and your phone.
Yeah,
and then we stay together.
That's like my kids are getting off the bus alarm, but my husband's home to help them with that. So I don't know why I didn't leave the alarm on.
Here's the thing. It is what it is. This is real time. This is not going to get cut. This is real time. Us having to process this and say, okay, we're back. We're focused. But we also honored that moment of distraction because there was nothing wrong with that little tangent at the exact same time. I love real time stuff. That's amazing. I have one more question for you before we completely close out. And that question is, you covered so much. You covered way so much. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm excited. And then I'm like, I can ask you so many questions. I'm like, calm down, Charente. Okay, come back.
While you're thinking and coming back to it, I will say I forgot the last part of that kind of cycle that gets created when we learn to do something new. In the case of what we were talking about was rest. The end of that is the confidence that gets developed, because you don't have confidence in the ability to rest until you've rested. So until you can get yourself to that place of being in true rest, you don't develop that true confidence. But there's a lot of tricks to kind of fake yourself into that confidence beforehand. But that is what you come out the other side with. You have that calm, that clarity, and that confidence genuinely developed when you've gone through that cycle.
That right there is why I tell people, I say when I say 10 toes down, I have no quorums. No one can bully me into nothing because I stay rested, which is the perfect part of true productivity. A lot of people forget that when they say, oh, I know how to be productive. You realize that 20% of that is rest. Yes. Like it's get the stuff done, but don't forget to rest. And I can say the resting part has been one of the hardest. I've been through a lot in my life. One of the hardest things that I've had to learn and how to slow down, because I still get a lot of things done and everyone thinks I am tired. I'm like, I'm not. I get the stuff done and then I rest. That's how I reward myself. I go and literally focus on nothingness, lay in my bedroom with no sensory, anything.
We still live in like such a patriarchal world, and everything is still so very much on a man's time, not on a woman's cycle or on our differences in the way that we, go about our days. Some days are useless for being productive, and that's just the truth, and that's totally okay. But that's all part of our cycle, the moon cycle, the earth cycle. There's so many cycles happening simultaneously, and most people are forgetting to honor any of them.
Girl, cycles on cycles on cycles on cycles on cycles. Like it's a little dizzying sometimes. So like a tornado, at the exact same time, there's calm in the middle of that storm at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I actually have an acronym for rest. Yeah. And it's a long acronym. Just rock with me. It's restoration and relaxation, effortlessly staying together in mind, body, and spirit. That is my acronym for rest.
I love it.
Because I had to remind myself, how do I rest? And then I'm like, take myself on self-care dates. Take myself to acupuncture and actually continually show up for myself by taking care of myself. And when I don't, I need to step back because I'm about to be not the best Charente. You're going to see angry Charente, and she's a ball of joy. I just want to say that as well as I can. And I recognize that. So my question to you, last question would be, how does someone recognize that they're in that negativity spiral? How can they get those flags of saying, okay, because she told me this, I can actually see this now. I can pick this up now. How can people actually develop you are taking the wrong turn. You went left when you should have went right. Like, break. You need a break.
Yeah. So it's like a disconnect from intuition, typically. Everything is energy, which is the simplest thing when you say it. But I seriously don't think I contemplated that until I was in my 30s and like the depth of that. And so with everything being energy, you start to notice, are you snappy? Are you irritable? How are you feeling with your decision making? Like, we are love. Like, our source is love. How many of your decisions and actions are coming from a place of love versus a place of fear? Because it's two very different energies. And you just kind of start to notice those little things. And when it's more fear or it's more irritation or more snappiness or more just feeling meh and that burnt out kind of feeling, then you know that you're not aligned with your own power, and there's something to be reclaimed there and a reconnection to be made to your source energy.
I love that. And I'm going to add in this because I totally glossed over the people that deal with imposter syndrome. It applies there too. I tell people that they are more than enough. They've always been more than enough. They've always been worthy. They've always been deserving. It's just you've been taught the opposite of that. And having to remember your true self does take time, does take work. And if you're willing to journey on that self-love, self-care journey, you can get back to the place where you remember that you are who you are. Can no one tell you about your lived experience but yourself and your subconscious and your spiritual team, depending on where you are in your life. And that anything that someone says that's against that, you have to be reminded that it's the 3-to-1. One person gets negative, 3 positive needs to counteract that 1 negative. And it might take a second. It might take some gratitude moments. It will eventually get back to where you are in the present, though. It's a journey.
It's beautiful. You know, we will only ever fulfill consciously what the conscious mind thinks we deserve. And that's based on beliefs and programming and all sorts of other stuff that's been fed into us since the minute we were, born. So that's why it's so important to rewire that, because all those things you're talking about, those are birthrights. Those are, we have limitless possibility, limitless capability. And, everything that we want to connect with is really just a matter of matching the vibration of it.
Absolutely. And so we have to know where to find you, Miss Teresa. We got to know, how do we get connection with you, especially if the listeners that are listening and need to talk with you on a one-to-one level? Do you even offer coaching?
I do. I have a beautiful program, the Becoming More Me signature program, and it has both group and one-on-one coaching options. And I absolutely love working with new clients. So totally welcome that. My favorite platform to connect with people on is Instagram. And you can find me there at Teresa Lear Levine. You can also find anything and everything you want to find on my website, which is teresalearlevine.com. And you and I are going to do some EFT tapping that is going to go into this amazing resource that I have called the Private Sessions after we're done recording this podcast episode. And so your listeners can get for free access to over 70 different EFT tapping rounds with all different people on all different topics, many of which we covered here on your show today, by going to teresalearlevine.org. And that will also give them information about my book, Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom as well.
Thank you so very much just for being all of who you are, your lived experience, your life story, and showing up today. I greatly appreciate you for taking this time to have these moments with us.
Oh, it was so fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Everyone check the show notes for all the things that she did list, because I like making life made simple. So check out those things. And that's a wrap for this topic section. Thank you so much for listening to this new episode of Affirmation Station Show. Remember to rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast streaming platform. Be sure to give me a follow or DM me on Instagram at Charente Carr your key takeaways and your thoughts on this episode and what future topics I should cover. That's all for now. Until next time, see you.